Last week, we went deep into the 10 best items to farm right now that'll still be BiS in Phase 4. We talked about BiS weapons like Valanir and just how good Death's Choice could be if you're maining a Death Knight. And if you haven't checked up on that video, please do, because there are some really overpowered items in there that'll take your DPS to the next level. But now it's time to talk about the best of the best, the creme de la creme. These are the items you still will be using when Mists of Pandaria Classic rolls out. The items I'll be talking about today are so good your guild will disband if they go to the wrong player. So take a seat, grab a blanket, and get cozy because it's time for the 10 best items in the Icecrown Citadel patch. At number 10, we have the dislodged foreign object. Never mind what part of Wotlk Phase's body this trinket was dislodged from. What matters is the 170 haste rating and average 325 spell power. At first glance, this seems really similar to Flare, except with haste instead of crit. But Flare's proc is 10 seconds and DFO has a longer 20-second proc. This is an absolute must-have trinket for pretty much every caster DPS in the game. Also, one nice benefit of DFO is that it has a 45-second cooldown. That makes it situationally better in shorter and medium fights and longer ICD trinkets. At number 9, we have Shadow's Edge. This is the weapon you get after completing the initial steps in the Shadowmourne questline. To recap, that includes obtaining 25 Primordial Serenite as well as getting the blood of both Rotface and Festergut. Because each blood only drops once per raid, only one player can make a Shadow's Edge each week. I know you might just think this is an irrelevant throwaway item on the way to Shadowmourne, but the itemization is really fantastic. Since it's guaranteed your raid can generate one every single week, that means a lot of players that never get Shadowmourne should still go for Shadow's Edge. At number 8, we have the 277 item level cloaks. There will be 5 new 277 cloaks dropping in Heroic Icecrown Citadel. Unlike the 272 TOC cloaks, these will be a lot easier to get. The Great Cloak from Sourfang is definitely exciting for my Resto Druid. And then Unholy Death Knights will want to get themselves a Winding Sheet, which is their BiS. Meanwhile, Red Paladins will line up for the Shadow Vault Slayer's Cloak with a suspicious lack of armor penetration. The main event, though, is the Frostbinder Shredded Cape, which is BiS for nearly all casters. At number 7, we have Althor's Abacus. I had to throw a healing trinket on here, and the clear best option is Althor's Abacus. The 201 spell power almost feels like it's taunting us since it's only one more than Illustration of the Dragon Soul. But while you're casting, once per 45 seconds, you'll also randomly smart heal a nearby target. That means a bonus heal of around 8,000 for an increase in overall healing of about 1%. At number 6, we have Tiny Abomination in a Jar. The first rule of Tiny Abomination in a Jar is that you don't talk about Tiny Abomination in a Jar. 85 hit rating is definitely nice, but the real draw is the proc. Every hit has a chance to grant a Mote of Anger, and when you hit 7, you instantly attack for 50% weapon damage. That extra attack can proc things like seals and poisons, and has an approximately 50% proc chance from melee hits. This is a huge damage increase for Red Paladins, but they'll have to fend off the Enhanced Shamans and their rogues too. Speaking of fending things off, I have a really big problem with mice in my basement right now. The biggest thing they seem to demand is for loyal longtime viewers to subscribe to the channel. It would really help if you subscribe to please our mouse overlords. Alright, I had to throw in a bonus item here, and that's the new portable hole from Harris Pilton. For only 3,000 gold, you could get 2 more bag slots to fill up with all the items on this list. Here's where I'd put my Shadowmourne if I had one. At number 5, we have the Tier 10 gear sets. The new Tier 10 gear will be a game changer for almost every spec. Similar to TOC, there are going to be 3 different sets of armor. You start off by buying the 251 gear from vendors for Emblems of Frost. Then you upgrade that armor with Marks of Sanctification to 264 item level. The last step is to take the 264 gear and upgrade it with a Heroic Mark of Sanctification to 277. It's definitely safe to say these marks will be some of the most highly contested items at Icecrown. Doubly so for specs like Shadow Priest and Red Paladin with insane set bonuses. At number 4, we have Phylactery of the Nameless Lich. 172 crit and a chance to proc a 20-second 1207 damage buff every time your spells deal periodic damage. If this thing procs during Bloodlust, you're in for a really good time. The downside, though, is that you do need to be playing a class with reliable dot damage like a Shadow Priest or a Warlock. At number 3, we have Deathbringers Will. With a few exceptions, pretty much every melee DPS spec will want Deathbringers Will. The base 167 armor penetration is really nice, but you also get an extremely strong proc effect every 1.75 minutes. That proc is random and class specific. For example, a warrior could get 700 strength or 700 crit or 700 armor penetration for 30 seconds. We also have to remember that most guilds will be stuck on fights like Lich King for several weeks. That makes Deathbringers Will one of the most contested drops by far early on in Phase 4. At number 2, we have the 284 weapons. The Lich King must have gone weapon shopping because he drops not 1 but 9 separate weapons. Highlights include Glor and Zelg, a ridiculously strong two-handed sword, as well as Blood Surge for casters. You can't forget Oathbinder, the insanely overtuned Feral Druid weapon, and Havoc's Call for Death Knights as well. My personal favorite, though, is the Royal Scepter of Terraness, which will be completely insane for my Disc Priest arenas. At number 1, we have Shadowmourne. Is Shadowmourne really worth 8 weeks of farming ICC and tens of thousands of gold and Primordial Serenite? The answer is absolutely yes. This axe is itemized perfectly for outputting maximum physical damage. The 114 critical strike, 223 strength, 3 red sockets, and 114 armor penetration. Every hit also has a chance to drain a soul fragment, giving you 30 strength per fragment. At 10 fragments, you unleash AoE shadow damage, dealing about 2,000 damage. This really is the best weapon in Wrath of the Lich King, and if you didn't re-roll to a warrior, a paladin, or a death knight already, you've made a huge mistake. Either way, we can debate the merits of who should get this axe first all day, but there's only one right answer. That's why you should check out my Shadowmourne Prio list next.